welcome back to my YouTube channel. I thought we would sit in a different corner of my bedroom this time because I realised after posting my last video that corner over there doesn't really do it justice and it's dark and dingy and makes me look strange. I look strange anyway, but this is a bit more fitting and it's like, you know, my bed and my posters and a bit of a wall and whatever, but it's kind of a bit more backgroundy. So I have come to the conclusion that I was supposed to, you know, start posting 2 videos a week. That definitely didn't happen because I completely forgot and I didn't have any time. So whilst I have a whole evening free, I'm going to do another book video. I thought what would be fun for me, mainly, is because I get to rant and ramble and talk crap for 20 minutes, would be to talk about my most favourite books and my least favourite books I've ever read over this, well, my period of my life that I've ever read since I was a child, I guess. I made a list, an actual list I've had to write down just in case I forgot anything. Not that I would, but I don't know, coming off the brain is a bit hard sometimes. But I just thought, you know, I'm just going to do that because that's a good introduction. People can kind of get a taste of what I like to read, what I really hated reading. And I just thought that would be so fun. I haven't got the books off my shelf because recently a lot of my books are in storage or I've sold them because I have a thing called a Kindle and I really like using my Kindle and I enjoy reading on there and I read a lot faster on there. I do have some of my most favourite books in physical copy. However, I didn't do that, so I just couldn't be bothered to get them out and, you know, realistically, that's it. But I have got my most favouriteest book out, which I'm going to talk about at the end. And I think I'm going to start off with, maybe I'll just do one I liked, one I hated, one I liked, one I hated. Or I'm going to do them in the ones I really liked and then the ones I hated. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out as we talk. But I think the first thing I'd like to talk about is my most hated book that I've ever read in my whole life. And this is no discredit to anyone who enjoyed the book or who loved the book. It is my opinion. Please think about it, that is my opinion. But it is You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao. I'm not sure how to say it. I'll pop like a picture here or somewhere where I decide to edit the picture out. But I really hate this book entire. I didn't actually finish it and I read this maybe 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I'm not really sure, maybe 4 years ago, I can't even remember. But I read about 200 pages in, didn't understand it, didn't connect with any of the characters. Also, I left a really disgusting review. Not disgusting review, but a really horrible review that I've kind of realised now. Yeah, I just really didn't like it. I didn't connect with any of the characters. I didn't really understand the storyline. I still don't understand the storyline. And I don't know whether I should go back and in a later video reread my most hated book. That's a genius idea. Actually, I'm going to do that. That probably exists, but I'm going to do that. Because I don't know if I would understand it differently now. But I just remember the main protagonist character being the most boring person I've ever read about in my entire life. And also I kind of hated both of them. I hated all of the characters. There was not one singular character in that book that I enjoyed, and I don't even remember any of their names. That's what's really bothering me, is nothing stood out. I was so bored and irritated. I remember it being irritated. I remember leaving in the review that it scene jumped a lot, so it was like they were at this place and they were at this place and then they were at another place, and I just didn't understand why on earth that kept happening. And I think that was what was bothering my little autistic brain at the time, was the fact that I didn't understand why we were scene jumping so much during this entire thing. Yeah, I just couldn't get to grips with it. And I'll be really excited in like a year or 2 years, if I keep doing this, to see if I've changed and if I have an opinion, you know, different opinion on this. But that is my most hated book that I've ever read in my entire life, because I just cannot for the life of me understand why it bothered and irritated me so incredibly much. Like, it was just insufferable, horrible, really horrible, but it was awful. Yeah, I just couldn't do it. Also, my next book that I hated, I'm going to do this in chunks of books I hate and books I liked, because I feel like that just really gets to grips with who I am as a person, as what I hate instantly, what I hate about myself. So the whole series, this is a series of books. Light Lark is the entire thing. Really enjoyed the first two, actually. Probably rated them 5 stars, I think, on Fable. Can't remember. Read them literally the end of last year, start of this year. Then the books got more grating as we went along because they are so predictable, and that has now made me hate the first and second book. I haven't read Grimm vs. Oro or the new one out. I can't remember the name of it. No, it doesn't come to mind. I think she's brought out a new book series since. Still haven't read that. Probably won't read that for a while. But I won't be carrying on with the series simply because I predicted it, figured it out really quick, and it's got really repetitive. The storyline, the first 2 books, though, incred, very similar to like what we've read before, was incredible, but it is so samey that I just got irritated by it. And now, because the 3rd, maybe the 4th book put me off, was the 4th Grimm vs. Oro? I think it was, because they've put me off so much, I've come to the conclusion that I hate them now, which is a really awful thing to do, but I do. I really hate them. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at the book that I wrote the answers on, by the way, because I am awful at remembering things. The 3rd book that I've hated with all my passion, I don't know if this counts as dark romance, I don't know if it does, or just something silly, Credence by Penelope Douglas. What was that? Why are we reading about step uncles and step cousins? Where has that trope come in? Because I have never read a dark romance, a spicy romance, any form of, smut that had that plotline to it. I don't understand why we were having sex with step uncles and step cousins, and why we were doing all of them, and why she was like barely legal doing all of that, and why parents died and she moved there. Like, that was such a far-fetched storyline. It was kind of pushing the boat a little bit. However, reading it and thinking about it now, I did actually enjoy it. Like, I didn't hate the book. It just made me feel really uncomfortable, because never once in all of my life, if, for me personally, if my parents died or whatever, would I be going to live. I don't even think I have a step uncle and step cousins. And obviously they pushed it so far out the boat to make it not ancestral that we are now doing step uncles, step cousins. We've gone from stepdads to step uncles. Because, like, why don't you have a stepdad? Or, well, obviously your parents, but, I don't understand why we have step uncles. I don't understand. I still don't get it. I think it was strange and really odd, and I didn't really like any of the characters either. And the main guy giving that grizzly bear, do not look at me, do not touch me, I don't speak, I am mute. Crap. What was that? Why did we need that? We didn't need that. He was weird. He gave me like heebie-jeebies, and every rightly so. He was a heebie-jeebies character. The other one was alright. I still don't remember. Again, I don't remember any of these names, and I literally read it like 5 months ago. It didn't stick with me because I think I spent the entirety of the book being so uncomfortable. Then I think about it now, and I'm just like, yeah, it still gives me these like creeps. And I am a godsend for a bit of, smut or a bit of, but that was too much and a bit more and yeah, I think about it now, and it's just so odd. It is really odd. I think it's odd. And then the last, maybe not the last book I hated, there has definitely been so many more books that I've hated in my life, but I'm really thinking I just want to get to the nitty gritty and do the ones I've absolutely loved with all of my life, the ones I absolutely hated with all of my life, just so you guys really get to grips with the type of person I am. I like different genres and I like different things, and I just want you guys to understand that there is just, these things have just, so many genres. But The Stand by Stephen King, controversial opinion, I know the amount of people that recommended this to me and was like, this will change your life, this is phenomenal, this is a great book, you will love this with all of your heart. I absolutely fucking hated it. It was so terrible. I still don't understand. I think I DNF'd it at 400 pages. And I read a thing online that was like, oh, it gets good at 600 pages. I should not have to read 600 pages of a book to then start enjoying it. I want to be in there by like 100 pages max. I want to be gripped, I want to be griped, I want to be in there with some of the characters, because there's a lot of books where I hate at least one character, and 9 times out of 10 I always hate one, but like every single character was boring besides the one woman, and I still remember reading chapters of that book and having absolutely no idea what was going on, and unless it was on a character that I liked, I wasn't interested. I know there's a plague that's breaking out, it's killing a lot of the population. Still don't really understand why. I literally have no idea, because I have no recollection, because I spent the entirety of it being confused. And what makes it worse is I annotated that book because I was like, I think this is an in-depth book, this is something I want to annotate and understand. Yeah, I still have absolutely no idea. I have no idea of what was going on or what was happening. So, terrible, will not be rereading it. Still have it on my shelf. It's kind of put me off Stephen King, but I'm not sure if The Stand was a good book to start reading Stephen King. I have since read like Misery, The Pet Sematary, etc, etc. Phenomenal, really enjoyed them. Still talks about women's boobs quite a bit, not really understanding that. Have not read it, although there is that one chapter that I'm kind of a bit scared for it, but I eventually will be reading it, because I've seen a lot of people reading it in one sitting or in one day. Kind of tempted to do that, or try, because I don't think I'm ever going to be able to read that amount of pages in one day ever. My attention span is not that good. But The Stand, why was it so long? Again, I'll like insert some images, like I think that like paints me out of the books that I really disliked though in my reading career. As well, actually, no, there was another one that probably tops it off, and that was the Divergent series. The films I loved, the books, shite. I'm not really sure why I really hate the books, but I think all the characters griped me, so that's probably why, actually. That makes so much more sense. Yeah. Divergent series books wise, the first one was okay. I remember reading it and it was okay. I do want to do a future video where I revisit all of this and all the books I hated and try and reread them, because I think I read Divergent so long ago now that I probably would read it in a different headspace. I'm a different person now. However, still think, what the hell? Yeah. I don't know, those sum me up, and those sum up like the main, I guess, genres of what I read, as well as thrillers, but there hasn't really been that one terrible thriller that I've read so far that I really hated. But those books, honestly, hated with all my whole life. Yeah, no, I can't do it. So the next books I enjoyed, books I love, books I would recommend to anyone in my entire heart. And I'm going to work from the bottom, and anything by Freida McFadden. Some people didn't like it, this book in particular, but I absolutely loved it, and it is my favourite Freida McFadden book. And besides the Housemaid series, that was all phenomenal. Every single one of those was immense, and I loved them. But The Inmate, I loved that book. From start to finish, I thought it was incredible. The twists and the turns, some people said they weren't. I'm new to editing, and I don't actually know how to edit, so I'm adding this in. But I ran out of storage, like filming the first clip and the second clip, so just pretend they blend together, because I don't know how to figure it out, and I will eventually, but no. That's off because I ran out of storage, obviously. Just had to sort that out for the past like 10 minutes, but I'm back and I can carry on talking about The Inmate. That book, and Freida McFadden as a whole, The Housemaid, The Inmate, The Divorce, all of them, every single one I've read has been phenomenal, and I've really enjoyed that one. The Inmate specifically, my top, the one I enjoyed the most out of them all. Very passionate to actually defend its corner against people who actually don't defend its corner. But again, I just thought, wow, what a great book, what a great story. And people who don't like it can go suck a fat one. No, I'm joking. Actually, I know all the opinions are just opinions. People shouldn't get mad and people shouldn't get upset. I'm not doing that. But it did upset me, or it does upset me when someone says they hate it, because chef's kiss top notch. The next lot of books is anything wrote or written by Sarah J Maas. I don't know if I'm gonna put a lot of books up there, but literally anything that woman has wrote or produces or sits down and makes. It's really cliche actually, because that's a predictable answer. Everyone loves ACOTAR, and there is a reason every single person on the planet loves ACOTAR, and it's because it is phenomenal. ACOTAR, Throne of Glass, Crescent City, all of them, phenomenal. Every single book, phenomenal. There has not been one bad one. A Court of Frost and Starlight. Skylight? No. A Court of Frost and Starlight, even though that was short and sweet, still phenomenal, because it's a novella. It's a little taster in between, just to kind of, you know, give your brain a little break between one chunk book and the next chunk book. It's just that little, everything's happy in there, everything's dancing, everything's sweet, it's just lovely. That's what people want in, like, a book. That is what people need in a book. That is what brings book communities together, is having consistent characters, nice characters, bad characters, protagonists, you know, the lot. And every single twist and turn, you know, plot point in that has just been stunning. It has just been incredible, and everyone loves it. Everyone sits down when you're reading that book, you're eating it up and you just can't put it down. And the little spicy bits, the little hint of the romance, the plot itself, without the romance. Take the romance out of it and throw that away. The actual plot itself is that incredible and that in depth, and there's so much going on that I just love it. You just can't hate any of them. You literally cannot. And like, speaking about ACOTAR primarily, that series got me back into reading, and I think it's done it for a lot of people, and there is a reason that it keeps doing that for people, and it's because people want a book where they can just delve into and not, you know, lose yourself for a little bit, like 5-10 minutes just losing yourself, getting lost up in it, just hours and hours. Even if you're a reader like myself, who I will like read a book in one sitting rather than over a few days, because I just get so indulged and so like involved in it. I just loved it. It was just so good, and every single plot point, every single bit for me was just stunning. I just loved it. And then I think the next lot I want to talk about as well, Boys of Tommen. I haven't read the last two in the series yet, because I find that with the Boys of Tommen books, they are so heavy in, you know, what they're about and what you're reading about, and the topics are so intense that I find when I've read one, I have to give myself a break. If I was to read, you know, Binding 13 and Keeping 13 back to back, which I did, it put me in a reading slump, but not because they were terrible, but because I found it so overwhelming, and I was so invested and emotionally connected to these characters that I couldn't think about reading anything else for a while afterwards. And I found, like, with Redeeming 6, Saving 6, I had to read them and then have a break even from reading as a whole, and then move on from it, because just the plot, incredible, the characters, incredible, and because you're so emotionally connected to these characters, what happens to them, you are just mortified by it. Or mortified just grips you, it really grips your heart. Like, it's unbelievable stuff that happens, and it is just incredible to read. The whole thing from start to finish, I mean, is just, it's just crazy. Honestly, crazy. And Chloe Walsh, how she writes and how she portrays these people, and how young these characters are as well, is just so fun. Like, fun, exciting, you're loving it, because even like the chapters in between where it's just so fun and happy in between the heavy emotional side of things, you just love it. And I really enjoyed them. I still have to read the last two, because I only finished Redeeming 6 recently, and that one was so incredible but so rough on my noggin. I still haven't picked really anything up after it, but I ate that shit up in like 3 days. So yeah. And then finally, but not finally, as this review is, like, this whole video is kind of spoiler free, because I haven't really given any spoilers, because I don't want to. I just want you guys to get a feel for what I love and what I hate and what I enjoy reading and what I don't. But my favourite book ever that I've ever read, more recently I've read this book, but the book that I have read the most was, and I actually have the physical copy because I enjoyed it that much, and not that I don't have no books, but I don't have very many books anymore because I've sold a lot of them are in storage. I just didn't feel, I don't feel the need that, and all have the space in my room to hold a lot of books, but the ones that I truly loved and I have kept. And that is Hooked by Asako Yuzuki. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I love anything Japanese or Asian wrote or Asian translation put in. Japanese translation, I think it's called. I don't know if that's the right words, but anything that has been wrote in a different language converted into English, and this was like with any books. This book was so incredible. It was every single character, honestly, like every single thing about this book, like Eriko, Shoko, the whole lot, even the male characters, all the female characters, what happens, how the obsession is told in this book, but from a best friend's point of view, and how, like, it doesn't just portray kind of stalkerish type vibes from a male who fancies a woman, as predictable as that storyline is, and how it can be about two women who aren't in love, but how a woman is in love with the idea of, like, not being able to be friends with a person, and who's obsessed with someone that they see online and who's not, and how someone tries to change themselves so someone, and it's just every single thing, every single subtext, every single context, every single, I don't even know if those are the right words, but every single bit about that book I just found phenomenal from start to finish. And I, again, read it so quick, and how they could portray, like, those types of emotions and that type of obsession without murdering happening, or how without showing that someone has to be, like, killing another person for them to be obsessed with a person. How it just shows it, how mental health plays such a part in why people get attached to other people. And I did relate a little bit to the book, not because I would get attached to people or I'm obsessed with people, but because, you know, you can hyperfixate on someone and want to be someone's friend, and that person not reiterate, or that person not want that, and you can, it like conveys how someone could be hurt by that, and it does take it to an extreme, but it shows how that extreme is taken without, you know, it be meaningful or harmful, or, like, again, no one dies in it, no one's dying. I guess that's a bit of a spoiler, but it was just, for me, just wrote so beautifully, and I sat down, and after, I just remember, like, feeling all these types of emotions that was just insane. And again, kind of related to the characters, some of them I didn't, but it was nice to read in that character's point of view how someone would think differently to me, but to understand it from their point of view and how they feel, because it really puts into perspective how, you know, a person has a way of thinking, another person has another way of thinking, and how people's has different opinions and people have different emotions and how they feel about things. I guess I'm saying a lot of emotional stuff without getting to a point, and it's because the book doesn't really get to a point. It's conveying so much from one person and so much want and need from another person, and it all together was just so beautiful for me and so gut-wrenching, and it kept me on edge, and it kept me, like, twitching, but without having to go through all this gore and all this, like, you know, typical death, and having to feel, you don't mourn anyone, but she's mourning without mourning, and that is what I kind of was like, wow, that is incredible. And I haven't read Butter yet. I want to read Butter so bad, and I do have the physical copy of that also, but yeah, I think that is just, right now, nothing beats that book for me. Nearly out this year, incredible, loved it, 5 out of 5 stars. Next, and I guess that kind of sums up this video as a whole. That is what I hate, what I love, the books and the genres I love, the books and the genres I hate, and I think that is kind of a bit more on me personally, and giving you guys a taste of what I like to read, what I don't like to read, or potentially I like to read everything, but if the book itself doesn't speak to me, then that's just that book, and it's not the entire genre as a whole. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there for today, but that's what I enjoyed, and that's what I hated.